Hi BookTube, my name is Juan. I am just one reader. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are treating yourself and finding some solace in the midst of this weird world that we are living in right now. These are troubling times indeed for everyone for many different reasons, whether it be economical reasons, your job, your business, your health, the health of people that you love or people around you, many different reasons, but we are all in this together. I myself have found that this whole coronavirus situation has affected me a little bit in terms of business, in terms of patients coming into my office. Even though I'm not actually going to the office right now, I am taking phone calls and Skype sessions with my patients. We're doing it online therapy, just for the meantime. But yeah, there's less patients now because some people just get anxious about having to pay for therapy when the situation is very harsh, and I completely understand them, and I hope things get better soon and things get a little bit more normal soon. But okay, so something else that I have been realizing and noticing in myself is that I am spending a lot of time indoors, most of the time indoors, surrounded by books. And you would think that this would be great for a reader and someone who is always complaining about not having enough time to read. It's because now is the time to read and enjoy many books that I have neglected. However, it is very hard to concentrate and sit down and focus because we are all burdened with anxiety and with many other things that are happening, and that sort of prevents you from getting into the mindset of reading. At least it has for me. I'm pretty sure that is true for many readers out there. But I have found that reading certain materials, certain texts, certain types of literature is more helpful to me because what we need right now is something entertaining, something that will make us happy, something that will make us disengage from our troubling reality, something that will make us hopeful, something that will make us escape, at least for a bit. And that doesn't mean that we just have to read Twilight and shitty novels. No, I think we can read many wonderful things, but I do think that right now, at least what I need in terms of my literature is something lighter and something that will just get me through this time. So I have chosen some books that I would love to recommend to you because I've actually been thinking of these books and whether I should read them or not, or maybe just some passages of them just to get me through some of these anxious times. So I have chosen a selection of books. I think it's like 10 books or something like that. And I have broken them down into 3 categories. So the first category is apocalyptical, dystopian, scary kind of literature, but that I think would be good to read right now. And I'm going to tell you why. The second category is gothic, mystery, suspenseful novels, because I feel like that's something that really works for me whenever I feel like I just want to escape. I like going back in time. I like time traveling into a Victorian period and finding myself in this dark atmospheres with really sort of Dickensian characters and beautiful language and really intricate plots. So I'm gonna have some recommendations for that. And then finally, my favorite, comfort food. So these are books that are just joyous, delightful, enjoyable. You know, the things that make us smile. Just put a smile on your face, because that's what we need, you know, to get into that put on your Sunday clothes, there's lots of world out there kind of mood, because we need that. Okay, so I'm gonna start with my three apocalyptical or slightly scary, tragic, slightly traumatic books, but that I feel are actually something good to read at the moment. So the first one is probably the most uncomfortable recommendation for me to give you right now, because it is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. And if you know anything about this book, you will know that it is about a pandemic. It is about pretty much the apocalypse, the end of humanity, which it happens because of a pandemic. So it's very uncomfortable for me to recommend this book, because it really touches with our reality right now. So it's a little bit too close to home in that regard. However, it is a book that is incredibly smart, beautiful, and just incredibly hopeful. And I think that reading this book might give us a sense of what humanity and what our legacy really is, and what it means, and what it could be. Because I feel like right now that we are quarantined or in self-isolation, we're in this sort of strange situation together. We are more reflexive, we are more pensive, and we are hopefully gaining more perspective about ourselves and our legacy as humanity. And I feel like this book can really tie in with that idea. So it is a scary book to read right now, because it is horrifying at first. It's filled with anxiety about the world coming to an end, which is, the stuff that happens every day now. But I do feel like this is just removed enough from our reality so that we can use it to better ourselves. The second recommendation in this category is my favorite short story collection ever, 10th of December by George Saunders. I think this is great because of many things, but for right now, because it is slightly dystopian. It's not exactly like a dystopian apocalyptical work like Station 11 is. This is sometimes futuristic, sometimes slightly surreal and bizarre. So it feels like a strange version of our reality sometimes. But first of all, it's incredibly entertaining. The writing style is the best writing style that you can find, I think. It is very smart. George Saunders is a wizard of the written world, in my opinion. And he always has a great ability to keep you thinking as a reader. And finally, the other book in this category is Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer. This is maybe not as similar to the previous two books, because this is more about the Holocaust and what that's not a pandemic, but it is a very tragic, very troubling situation, on a lot of conflict for the world as well. And I think this book is great for this time, because it is very immersive, incredibly original, very creative. It's sort of like a wizarding feat of writing. It's wonderful, and it's also really funny, so it has humor in it, and it's also very hopeful, and it reminds us of what a human can do and what humanity can be like, both in its really negative aspects, but also incredibly positive, hopeful aspects. So those are my three recommendations for that category. Now we're moving on to something slightly more fun, and that is gothic, suspenseful thriller mysteries. And I have three of them. The first one is the classic Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This is something that is just tried and true. This is a a booktube darling. This is a book that I think everybody watching this video will probably have read or have heard of. It is wonderful. I've been wanting to go back and read this myself for quite a long time. It's just delicious. It's just like reading this book is like finding yourself immersed in this really wonderful, wicked, dark world, and but it's so immersive, and it's so wonderful that I just feel like you have to, if you want to read something dark and entertaining but just very sophisticated, this is the way to go. Now, on a similar vein, I would recommend Fingersmith by Sarah Waters, although this is probably more fun and more story-driven than Rebecca. Rebecca is more about the characters, it's more about the internal psychology of the characters, if you will. It is more about the creepy atmosphere. Fingersmith, on the other hand, is much more about the plot. It is a very convoluted story that crackles with twists and turns galore. The characters are very colorful, and again, it's a very atmospherical kind of read. It's very immersive, and it's a book that will suck you in completely. And finally, another booktube darling, a book that I always recommend when people want to be immersed in a good read, is The Shadow of the Wind. This is my Spanish copy, my original copy in Spanish, but it's The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is a perfect book, in my opinion, because it allows the reader to have access to a wonderful world. There's a lot of world building in here. It's filled with wonderful characters, very quaint, colorful characters, very funny dialogue. It's incredibly funny. It's also very dark and sort of scary in certain parts. It's about reading. It's about the joys of finding yourself in love with a book. So I feel like this is just calling out to readers, read me, read me, read me. So this is incredibly immersive, very plotty, so you will get immersed in its pages. All right, and now for the last category. Let me get the books right here. So the last category is, I have 4 books that are just comfort food. This is what we need when the world seems like it's going to fall apart. It's not falling apart, it's just the anxiety that we feel that things will change forever. And they will change, but we don't know how exactly or to what extent. So we need to lose ourselves in something joyous for the time being, don't you think? So these are some recommendations for different reasons. So, okay. So firstly, I have chosen Harry Potter. And I'm not exactly recommending Harry Potter necessarily, but I do think that you have to find the book for you that represents or stands for what Harry Potter means to me. And that is something that is just your book, your world, your universe, just something that feels like coming back home. For many of us, that is Harry Potter, but for you, it might be whatever. It might be something else. It might be Sherlock Holmes. It might be The Lord of the Rings. It might be the Bible. I mean, I don't care. It can be literally anything that makes you feel like safe in an environment that you know and love and confide in these characters. So to me, that is Harry Potter. And especially Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire for me. So I would recommend to just go back and read something that is joyous to you and like home. Another recommendation that I have is The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland in a Ship of Her Own Making. This is something whimsical and something completely fantastical and absurd and otherworldly, and it feels so incredibly far removed from our current reality, our current situation. So I do find myself longing for something like this, something that will just take me somewhere else entirely. And you know, that book has beautiful language, wonderful descriptions, wholesome characters, and it's just playful, something playful. Now I have I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. This is a wonderful book because it is very hearty and very wholesome. It's about this young girl or young teenage girl who is sort of stuck in a weird reality, stuck in a troubling reality. Her family used to have a lot of money and fame, and now they are completely broke, and they are living day by day. They are experiencing a very harsh reality, which is something that I feel like we can all relate to right now. But then it's also an incredibly funny, light, sophisticated novel about this girl and her whole family going through this time, and it's just wonderful. It is a wonderful book because you really get immersed in this castle, in this family home with these people, and the characters are all incredible, and you feel for them and you love them, and you love them in spite of all their flaws and quirks. Again, these are very eccentric characters, so I love those kinds of novels, books. And my final recommendation is actually something that feels very much like I Capture the Castle, but funnier, and that is P.G. Wodehouse. Anything by P.G. Wodehouse, but I would recommend Blandings Castle in particular. Any of P.G. Wodehouse's works that take place in Blandings Castle, because it's just the best thing that I could think of to really lose yourself in a world that is eccentric and funny and light, and feels like watching Gilmore Girls but funnier, and with English people in the countryside. This is just perfection for right now. I might actually go ahead and read some short stories from P.G. Wodehouse, because this is just light, it's funny, it's ridiculous, it's escapist, but it's also very good writing. So yeah, we need some humor. We need a lot of humor. So there you go. Those are some recommendations, some books that I feel like I might pick up and read, and that I think maybe you could find some solace in. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.